Hello, everybody. It's Fernando Labastida from the UXAI Summit as part of the speaker interview series. And I'm really privileged to welcome Sara Lohse to the interview. She's one of our featured speakers. Welcome, Sarah. I hope everything is doing well on this Friday afternoon.
It is. I'm so happy to be here and getting the chance to chat with you.
Yeah. So a little bit about Sarah. She's my sister. She's a realtor. And you know that realtors are a dime a dozen, right? Everybody has an uncle, cousin, sibling, grandparent, kid who's a realtor, right? So how do you differentiate yourself? How do you get a foothold in the market? My sister, we lived in England when we were teenagers, and back in the 80s, she started going to nightclubs in downtown Austin and started becoming friends with a lot of glam rock groups, with the teased hair and and dyed hair, etc. And she started dressing like that. So these fantastic pictures of her with the eye makeup and the extravagant clothes, etc. And then when she moved to Austin, we moved back to the States, she just got involved with the whole rock and roll scene. And she has tattoos. She loves Day of the Dead iconography. She's very different from your typical realtor. And she calls herself Rock and Realty, right? She appeals to a very unique market, right? Which are the people who are the musicians, who are the sort of like the keep Austin weird people. And, you know, in her video, one of her videos that she talks about, where she talks about herself, she talks about, if you want advice on neighborhoods or the best tattoo parlors, that's fantastic. It's because she just kind of told a little story there. And she's always constantly posting stuff about, in between where she posts stuff about houses, she posts pictures of her with her dyed bright red hair, at rock and roll events, etc. So she's telling her stories. She's drifting up these stories on Instagram of her being very unique. So somebody who's a very kind of buttoned up person is not going to be attracted to her, but somebody who feels left out by all those buttoned up realtors, but they love doing yoga and they love going to rock concerts, they're going to totally resonate with her, right? And that's not a difference in the type of service or a feature or benefit. That's her story. And anyway, I didn't, thank you for letting me share that.
No, I love that. It makes me think of I did a podcast with one of my quote unquote competitors, and his name's Josh Trokey. And we do the exact same thing for basically the exact same people. And we get on this call and it's all video. So he is in this really clean, like back wall is brick look, and he's wearing a suit with, I think he was even wearing a bow tie, and I show up in a sundress, and my background is basically a wall of pink disco ball, and it's
Very fast.
night and day, but we do the same thing, and we just do it in our own way, and neither of us are worried about the other one being competition because he's going to attract the people that are a little more, buttoned up and professional. I'm gonna attract the people that are a little more fun and quirky, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna work with people that I really resonate with and that all of my clients, I feel like, are my friends. And for the first 15 minutes of every client meeting, we're just talking about life and have to remember to get on topic, and I love that. And he's gonna find the people that really resonate with him, and we're in this age of AI, and what people are really craving is authenticity. And it
Yes.
is so hard to tell when something is real and when someone is a real person. And that's why if you're getting on a podcast, if you're getting on a webinar, if you're getting on just social media, you need to be showing your face. You need to be telling stories. You need to be showing, like, I'm a real person.
Mhm. Mhm. I love that. I love that. And I think it's interesting because, and it's also ironic because the UXAI Summit coming to Waco at the Performing Arts Community Center, September 12th, all day on Saturday. The website is youxai.live. So U times AI.live. Anyway, so the conference is about AI and creativity. So it's ironic that here is you and I talking about what's the AI proof way to promote our business, to differentiate ourselves. But my question to you is, then within that context, how do we use AI? How do we integrate AI into this way of thinking, the storytelling? What's your unique DNA?
Yeah, I think AI is a really, really powerful tool. And I think the important thing is to remember that it is a tool. And when you're using it in your business, AI is an assistant, not a manager, not a leader, and making sure that we're looking at it like that. So if you are trying to figure out what your story is and you have that it's like that you look at a blank Word document, the cursor's just blinking at you and you have no idea where to start.
Yeah.
Using AI to start getting ideas is a really easy way to get started. Feed into AI if you're creating a talk that you have to do, who are you talking to? Tell it about the event, tell it about your topic, and have it ask you questions that can help you figure out what stories to tell. Things like that that are using it as a way to brainstorm, using it as a way to come up with ideas that you might not have come up with yourself. It can be really hard to think about yourself and talk about yourself. So, having something there to ask you questions is a really easy way to get past that idea of, well, I don't want to talk about me. This isn't supposed to be about me. But really, it is. Everything you're doing is supposed to be about you because you are your differentiator. So, one of the ways that I definitely use it is having it ask me questions that can help me figure out what story is going to work here, or even having it clean it up for you. If you know the story that you want to tell, I know ChatGPT has an audio version. I'm not sure if Claude does, but even feeding it a script, have it clean up your story. And maybe it can take out some details that aren't necessary. Maybe it can reframe it a little bit for you, help you work through some of those details so that you're telling it in a better way. Just don't have it tell the story itself.
That's fantastic. It's kind of a way to interview you, to extract from you that story that maybe you feel a little bit hesitant to share.
Yeah, and I can even give an example of this being done completely wrong. Because one of I never actually got to release the episode, which breaks my heart, but it was one of the first episodes that I had recorded for my podcast, My First Stage, and I had a bunch of questions that I would send any guest, and the show is just about the first time you got on stage, the first time you were a public speaker, and the questions that I ask ahead of time are, "Tell us about your first speaking experience. What happened next? How have you used it to grow your business?" Very specific questions. But one of the guests that I sent it to was using a VA to do her pitches. And instead of asking her to answer these specific questions, because they had a list of answers to the regular questions, but mine were very specific. Instead of asking her, they just asked ChatGPT. So it wrote a phenomenal story about
Right.
her first time speaking, and she was at this event. She got a standing ovation and not a dry eye in the house, and it was such a fantastic first time speaking. And she gets on the recording. She's like, I gotta be honest. All of the answers to those questions are complete lies. I didn't know that they sent that. I did not write any of that. That was all AI. None of that happened. You can't expect AI to know your story. It's going to come up with something. It's never going to say, "I have no answer."
Yes.
It will give you something,
Mhm,
but it's not gonna be able to give you a story that's actually relevant to you. It's just
mhm.
gonna take the details that it has found from other people, and I'm sure someone out there got that standing ovation and was speaking to not a dry eye in the house, but it was not that person. And it's just I think about that all the time when people are relying heavily on AI. You have to make sure that you are leading with your own stories and experiences and just using AI to clean up the edges and make the processes a little faster.
Yeah, yeah. That is so hilarious, but also is big red flag, right? Big red flag. But
It wasn't her fault, like, it was her VA that did it, and
Mhm.
I was like, "Have you been on a stage before? Like, are you qualified to be here?" She's like, "Oh, I'm a speaking coach, like, my first stage story is actually a good story, I'd love to tell it. It's just not that story," and it ended up being such a great conversation. I was sad I couldn't release it. Um, it's the worst. But it was just such a good lesson too, and I know the owner of the company that was running the pitching for her, and I told her that story too, and she's like, I gotta talk to my team. We need to change how we're doing this.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That reminds me of there's a friend of mine, Russ Henneberry, who's actually going to be one of the speakers at the summit as well. And he talks about how you've got to season AI in order to really be effective as representing you and your company. And what he says by seasoning is, okay, if you tell AI to write me an email series or write me some advertising copy, etc., and you just give it a little bit of information, it's just going to come up with boiled chicken results, including, boiled chicken, which is going to be generic or it's going to hallucinate about something. He says, what you've got to do is and he explains or teaches a whole way to actually use your own training data from your own company, your story, etc., to season it with you. And it goes, I think, it kind of goes along with what you were talking about, with the story. So, Sarah, unfortunately, our time has come to an end, but I think that people can come and see you at the UXAI summit. Again, it's youxai.live, right? Up until June 15th, you can get on the waiting list, and then we're releasing the early bird tickets at $59 a ticket on the 15th of June. And it's good until July 14th when the tickets go up to $79. But where can people find you, Sarah?
Yeah, .com is where everything about me lives. You can find links to all my socials. You can find my book, my services. Now that you have reminded me to add them to my website because I forgot I took them off. So this was a good little kick in the pants for me. Thank you for that. Yeah, favorite.media.com. Everything about me is going to be there.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you on September the 12th.
Can't wait.